Welcome to the Audiobook Lovin Series, a month-long event celebrating the authors and narrators that bring romance stories to life. Listen along as Viviana, Enchantress of Books, interviews your favorite writers and voices, share special guest posts, and stay tuned for some special information at the conclusion of the episode.
Today I have the pleasure of chatting with guest narrator Mackenzie Cartwright. Welcome to Audiobook Lovin, Mackenzie.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here.
I'm thrilled to have you, and thank you for saying yes. I'm so excited to have you as a guest for this year's series. But for those that don't know you, why don't we start with having you share a little bit about yourself, how long you've been narrating, and how you became a narrator?
Well, I was raised in New York City I was born to two kind of crazy artist parents. So I kind of, I escaped a lot in books. My parents were very much doing their own thing and we traveled a lot. So I always had my nose in a book. And from a very early age, I found myself looking through my parents' bookshelves for the romance novels. And sometimes reading the juicy bits, I would sort of like peek through their books, and I would just sit there open mouthed and going, "Oh my gosh, this is amazing!" And I loved romance from a very early age. So I got started narrating in 2012, 2013. So since then, and I've narrated about like over 90 books in all sorts of different genres. I love it. I love my job. I have the best job. And I get to work with some of the best actors that I've ever encountered. So win-win. You guys who are listening to this, I know that you are really, really passionate about your male narrators too. And when we get paired together, I'm friends with a lot of these guys, and we'll text each other. And we're like, "Hey, look what we're doing together!" Woohoo! We get so into it. So yeah, it's my pleasure to be here, and I can't wait to answer any questions you have.
Thanks. Yeah, the listeners definitely love their male narrators. There's been more of a kind of surge now with the whole like, hey, we love our ladies, just as much. And
Yeah,
so you've
yay.
even seen, oh yeah, no, it's great. So yeah, you mentioned about 90, Audible is saying about it's 93 titles, but I know sometimes Audible is a little off. Are you narrating now full-time?
Full-time. Gosh, I have about 5 books that are going to be released really shortly. I mean, they're really it's my job, it's my life, and it's great. I've got my nose in a book, but instead of like in a physical book, it's on my iPad, which is on my music stand in my booth at home. Yeah, that is my full-time job.
Nice.
Is getting to go on these fantastic journeys.
Well, thank you for taking us with you, because one of the things that I love about audiobooks is that ability to kind of travel and do all these adventure stuff and learn new things. And the fact that with the audiobooks, you guys perform them for us, and it's just so fantastic. It's almost like watching a movie or a play now at this point, and for some of you.
Yes, when you're reading a book, or in my case, when I'm narrating a book and a picture starts going in my head, that's it for me. I see the movies, particularly I love doing Kaylee Loring's books. She's got these really, really fantastic books like Sleeper that I just did with Teddy Hamilton. She writes these great romantic comedies where I can just see where she bumps into him in the beginning, and I can just see it, and like she spills her bowl of oatmeal like all over his feet, and I'm just like, she writes the characters so well that I can see it as I'm narrating it, which makes my job so much easier.
It's also sometimes that we can I know that when I see it on social media, and part of the gig of being a narrator is to promote the client and things like that. But there's also sometimes when we can kind of really tell you guys are really having fun while you're performing it. Especially these rom-coms, or if it's one of those like Lily Archer's, the Fake Captive series, where you have so many different characters and you're all over the place as far as being able to act in it. And I'm like, she sounds like she's having fun, you know?
Oh, yeah. Oh, and we are, because anytime you get to voice like an ogre or a fae from the fairy realm and stuff, it's very, I grew up loving fantasy. So anytime I get to escape into those characters, I just love it. And what I think people sometimes forget is that we get to play everybody. It's not just our heroines who we play in if it's a single point of view, we're voicing the men we're falling in love with, or you know the soul of the dragon that's coming out in the Fey realm to capture the heroine. We get to be the dragon and the heroine. So it's real. Talk about being immersed in the story. Like, I know when I'm sitting in my house and I've got my headphones on and I've got my blanket on and my hot chocolate, and I'm listening and I'm escaping into a story, I'm doing the same thing when I'm recording it.
Well, we enjoy it so much. I know it's one of those where I've said it before. I'm like, I did not know that this was a career choice. When I was in high school, our options were teacher, lawyer, doctor. Um,
That's true. That's true. And I did not know that this was an option. I grew up listening to like a few audiobooks, but they weren't even called audiobooks. They were called books on tape, and
mhm.
and they weren't on tape, they were on CD, which was weird, so it's like, what, on tape? What's that? But and then, like my parents had cassettes and stuff, and I was like, oh, this is old and whatever. But yeah, no, now it is, I'm so glad that I found this career. It's fantastic. And there's been an explosion in listening. An
Oh yeah.
explosion.
Yes. I want to say the past couple of 5 years forward,
Mm-hmm.
there's been that, like you said, explosion on the listener side of wanting to do the audio. I think part of it is life has gotten so crazy with day to day, and we're trying to find ways to do the self-care side, but then not feel guilty about it. So,
No guilt. I say no guilt to self-care. That is such an
mhm.
important thing. And I don't know where we got so focused on, and I think women especially, we
Yes.
get the message, you know, oh, you've got to be perfect and cook organic meals and find the perfect guy, and your house has got to be clean and you've got to have an amazing career and blah blah blah. But take care of yourself too. And I'm
Mhm.
like, oh, yeah, you want to start with, let's how if I'm so busy, like, so I say no shame to self-care, like
Yeah,
no shame. You've got to do it.
absolutely.
And if listening to audiobooks is your form of self-care, do it.
Yes. Well, that's how I started. I kind of, okay, well, I want to start, going back to reading like I used to, but, life busy and stuff. I'm like, I'm just going to pop in an audiobook. And I had listened to a bunch of them before, so it's not anything that I was new
Yeah.
to. But like driving to work, which is to the day job, is like 45 minutes.
Yep.
So I started doing that because it's better than searching through the stations to listen to something that might be entertaining on the
Yes.
radio. And so I much rather listen to you guys narrate the books to me. And the same thing with like the day job at the office when I was going to the office, cubicle world. So I need to focus. And as
Mm-hmm.
I'm doing spreadsheets, I'm listening to you. Now that always got a little interesting sometimes, I will admit, when, you bust out laughing and you're the only one in your office. And then you have people walk by saying, you okay?
And you're like, yes, accounts receivable is fascinatingly
Yeah.
hilarious.
Yes. Yep. I go, yeah, this one director wants, a meeting with the 6 VPs for tomorrow. Aha.
Oh. Did you ever hear of anything so ridiculous in your life?
Yeah. Yeah.
You tell him.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, oh yeah, I remember the joke. Or of course, thankfully it's never happened to me, but it's happened to a few of my friends where they get disconnected from the earbuds and it's in the middle of a steamy scene.
Oh my
So
goodness.
yes,
Oh, that's
thankfully
torture.
it is. So
That's torture. And then you have to wait till you get back in the car to find out what happened. Oh, geez.
well, there's
That's
been many a
terrible.
times where I've been late to work a little bit because I'm not leaving the car until I find out what's happening.
Oh, I am the queen of sitting in the parking lot and
Hmm.
just like, not yet, not yet, not
Yeah.
yet.
Yeah. I had one of my team members was looking for me and he texted me and go, are you listening? I'm like, uh-huh. So he knew I was in the car. how much longer? I'm like, the file says 2 more minutes. Like, okay.
See,
Yeah.
like I said, self-care.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And thankfully nowadays, I think the devices have gotten, well, the creators of these devices have realized that it's important to, if the earbuds disconnects for whatever reason, to stop what it is that you're playing. So you're not embarrassing yourself at the store or in your office, unfortunately.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. But I think if we looked around, I think we'd find a lot of other people listening to romance audiobooks, more than we could ever possibly imagine.
Mm-hmm.
My mail carrier, I'm this close to catching him. I think I've caught him listening to a romance novel.
Oh.
Not entirely sure, but sometimes I'll hear him walk up to the house, duk, 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 and I hear his earbuds. I'm like, I need just a little longer. So
Yeah.
I'll do a stake at one of these days, and I'm not creeping on my letter carrier guys, but
Not at all. No. And you let us
I'm just
know if you
curious.
find
I'm
what you
just
find
curious.
out,
I will. I
Yeah.
will.
Yeah. So how do you end up prepping for a book once you've been cast?
Well, I look at the author first. Is it an author that I know? So, for instance, if I'm doing Evangeline Anderson's Kindred Tales, I know what world we're in. I know who we're dealing with. If it's Lily Archer's Fae's world, I sort of just orient myself. Then I go through the script. So I have the final version of the script in front of me, and I have got my on my iPad, I have a program that allows me to highlight in different characters. So I usually leave my heroines the same picture, or the same as the text, because that's the one I'm going to see most often. But my male characters, my other ancillary characters, are all different colors. So I know which voices to come to. I read it, and then I think about it, and I make some notes. And I think about the kind of voices that I'm going to do for all the characters. I think about who the hero is and what kind of voice he should have, if I'm not doing like a dual narration.
Mm-hmm.
And then when it's time to record, I've got I'm working, with an engineer in a studio. Right now I'm working from home, but most of the time I'm in a studio with an engineer. Sort of take a deep breath, roll my shoulders back, and take a big fortifying gulp of hot tea, but not too hot so I don't scald myself. And then I'm off to the races, and I start at chapter 1.
Does the author kind of give you any information beforehand when it comes down to like accents or specific characteristics, like if there's a lisp or
Oh,
or anything like
sure.
that? Okay, good.
Sure. So there are two places that I get information about my characters. One is if the author has written, some of these authors do fantastic descriptions of their heroes and heroines. So, if they say, she had a slightly hoarse voice. And she sounded a little bit older than she was. She sounded almost like she was tired. Something like that, when I get a description in a book, tells me everything I need to know. There's the voice right there. Or if I've got a strong man who's speaks in clipped sentences because he doesn't have time to deal with anybody. That character description gets my imagination going. Things like accents, like I just did a Russian accent for a specific book that takes place. We've got members of the mafia involved in the Russian mafia, and so I was emailing with the author. I was like, well, what do you want? Do you want subtle? Did he grow up in this country? Were his parents, did he grow up speaking Russian first? These pieces of
Mm-hmm.
information can inform the character. So two things: the text itself, really, and the author.
Yeah, because there's nothing worse than finding out that there's a Russian accent when you're about halfway through the book, and then you're like, oh, forgot to mention that he's Russian. Got to go re-record. Which I think
That
I
is a
heard has happened.
narrator's worst
Mm-hmm.
nightmare. That's a big that's kind of a rookie mistake, because you've got to read the book, and most authors won't put an important fact. They won't bury it in the last half of the book. Some have, though, and
Yeah.
this and that revealed her slight Irish accent, and you go, oh darn. So yeah, so to avoid things like that, I will often, if I'm in touch with the author beforehand, we'll just say, hey, anything I should know before I start. So, no, sometimes too, like I think of actors, famous actors. Who you see, like if your book were a movie, who would you cast? That's helpful too.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, sometimes I think authors have come to realize the importance of providing the narrators with that information in advance. And even as far as the casting process, because if there is an accent and the narrator that they're considering that can't do it, you know,
Oh
you
yeah,
need to know that in advance before you hire them.
it's important. Hmm.
Mhm. So especially nowadays, because we're so global, people have, we've heard the Scottish accents, we've heard the Russian accents, and sometimes when, we're like, no, that's not Russian. so
Sure,
it's important to know if
sure.
it's a slight versus he was born and raised there, and now he just left, you know.
Yeah, it's a rich tapestry of accents and actors out there too. So,
Mhm.
the authors have the power, and they can say, "Hey, can you just give me 30 seconds? Can you send me 30 seconds of Russian? I just want to hear your guy."
Mhm.
And then they can find out pretty quick.
Quite a few of the books that you've done have been like MFM, so there's two male heroes.
Mhm.
How do
Mhm.
you go, like, to select when you have two heroes that are going to be obvious around a lot?
Well, so, like, for instance, you could take The Wild One. That's a Ruth Cardello novel that came in, and my other two narrators were Rock Angle and Ryan West. And so I know both of those guys. They're as different as people can be. So all I have to do is think about who's speaking, and it really, my voice just kind of mimics that guy. Um, people are different.
Mhm.
Yes, it's hard when you're using your lower register a lot for these men. Um, if you're doing a lot of men, sometimes, I need to do a little bit more vocally warming up just to make sure I'm able to use to have a lot of flexibility, and then I don't get kind of stuck in the basement. Especially a lot of these guys are written gruff, and um, they're husky, and they're subtle, and it's, you can hear it's kind of gravelly. It's kind of down in my vocal range. And
You
so
do
you've
that
got to
so
keep
well.
it. Thank you. It's so much fun to do. I can't even tell you. I have a big smile on my voice when I'm doing it. Um, so these actors who I'm getting to interact with are as different from each other as people can be. So it's really it's really not a problem to differentiate. Um, it's just hard for the heroine because who do you pick?
Well, it's just, sometimes some of the books are a little bit more one-on-one, or there aren't that many characters, or they're not in the same exact scene. I think that's probably where it gets the most difficult, is when you have a bunch of different characters all in the same scene and they're all talking. Um,
Yes, yes, that's a challenge. But, actors, like, I can only speak for myself, but I love challenges like that. It keeps me on my toes. And boy, you haven't narrated big groups except for like when the mafia dons are having their their meeting with all their lieutenants, and it's like 16 men in the room, and they're all different, and you've got to, and they all have the same accent, and you've got to
oh my goodness.
differentiate them. That's tricky. But yeah, the switching off between our heroines and our heroes, that's always fun because it's so intimate. And our ladies our ladies here, and then our guy is here, and they're just both right there with each other. Um, that kind of intimate play is really fun too.
With all the books that you've narrated, are you no longer impacted or affected when it comes down to some of the steamier scenes in these books that we love to listen to you guys in?
Well, like any kind of literature, there's some that are written more to my taste
Mhm.
than others. There's some where I get emotionally involved. And then there's others where, maybe it's not my jam, but it's my character's jam. And I can certainly get behind it imaginatively. kind of a cool thing about being an actor is not judging. I'm a very supportive ally, and I having narrated a pretty rich tapestry of different kinds of romance. I mean, I really love and celebrate it all. There are things that are more personally that I hook into, but hey, sometimes I'm like, hey, didn't think of that. That sounds like fun. Or I didn't know I was kind of attracted to this kind of hero, but this guy really grew on me. So okay, it's playing in a really exciting world,
Mm-hmm.
and I love it.
Yeah, I know that the listeners tend to, and in myself included, part of it's just being human nature, is when we're listening to some of the more steaminess on what between
Yeah,
the couple, and we're going, oh damn, that's so hot, and we're getting like, hey babe, kind of thing afterwards, because you're getting turned down.
sure.
But now you're performing this, and you said that you are in a booth with but you're not doing it at home so much, but you also have other people listening while you're doing it.
Yes, yeah. So I always have somebody listening, because who are you telling the story to? I
Mm-hmm.
need somebody to tell the story to. I need somebody to say, hey, listen to this, because that creates the bond between the listener and me via the medium of the book that I need. I need to connect to somebody. I feel like, especially with romance, the point of view is usually a woman who we have to connect with immediately. And so I have to be able to tell you this thing that I'm experiencing. Romance it's life, but it's also larger than life. It's the biggest feelings that consume us, and the biggest, deepest longings and pain, but also incredible pleasure and joy and satisfaction. And like, will we or won't we, that kind of anticipation, like, it's got the whole human experience in it. Yeah, I need to talk to a person.
You don't find it awkward at all having to do those more intimate scenes and have someone in the room? I think that's what we think of, the same thing as we were
Like,
talking about.
is she embarrassed? Is she
Yeah,
embarrassed
like, are you
talking about that?
embarrassed about it? In the moment that
Uh,
you're.
you know, in the beginning, I was a little bit, but the the good news is, if I'm doing my job, I'm not embarrassed because the character isn't embarrassed. Or if I'm embarrassed, it's because the character's embarrassed too.
Mhm.
It's, and heaven knows there's some embarrassing things that can happen in the world of romance and sex and all that. That's where a lot of the comedy comes in.
Mhm.
Sometimes we'll get past a particularly something that's steamy or surprising, or it was going a place where I, wasn't necessarily sure it was going to go, and my engineer and I will just burst out laughing, or we'll be going, "What? She hated him," or whatever it is. Like, those two hated each other. What? And we'll have our little moment, and then we'll calm down. I'll take a sip of water, and then we'll go on to the next chapter. So we kind of, it's almost like The Bachelorette or something. We almost have like a running commentary sometimes, my engineer and I, with about what's going on in the story. So we can, I have some times where I have just busted out in the middle of recording, going, "What?" or "No, you're walking away from the perfect person. Stop it!" Like, sometimes you want to like reach through the TV screen and like slap the characters and like shake them, and you're like, "No." I'm kind of like that with the romance characters, but
Yeah. It's so cool that you have the same kind of moments that we do when we're listening while you're doing the actual audiobook.
oh my gosh, like, tell me, do you do you ever talk back to the characters when you're listening? Because I do.
Yeah. I think I did it significantly more when I was reading the books versus listening to it. But there have been times
Yes.
where I'm like, that's it. I take the earbuds out. I'm like, I'm mad at you. I'm not listening to you for right now. Because you did something stupid, you know, I'm
Sit in
going,
the corner. I love
yeah,
it.
yeah. I'm like, all you had to do was just ask her, for God's sakes. It's not that big of a deal if you just talk. you know,
Yeah, but that's how we are. That's how
I
we are.
know.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah, no, but I will be in the booth. I'll be sitting on my hands. I'll be, my hand is a fist. I'll be, like, I have I will have times, and my engineer will say, "Mackenzie, stop." because I'm making noise in the booth. I'm waving my hands in the air, or I'm or like I'll accidentally hit the microphone cord. Here, I'm gonna do it, and I'll go boom, and you can hear a big thing on the microphone, and she'll get mad at me, but it's okay. She forgives me. We've worked together a long time.
Yeah. Well, I've had that conversation with Shane East, regarding having to sit so still, and I tend to get pretty animated with the hands. Part of it is the whole, Italian and Latin background that I have, but I'm going, I probably would not be good to doing this whole audiobook thing if I was being recorded professionally for stuff like this, because I'd probably be all over the place. Like, are you kidding? And he's like, no, love, you'll learn. And I'm like, okay,
Oh, and that accent. No, love. You'll be great at it. Don't worry about it. What you learn to do is sort of funnel it. You funnel it into your performance, and I'm using my hands right now, and you can't hear it just because I wear soft clothing and I've learned how to do it. I like to stay. It's tough. It's a long-term type of thing. I mean, you're not. I feel like our listeners are not always just sitting perfectly straight, with their back straight and their hands in their lap, listening to these books. They're in running a vacuum, or doing the dishes, or driving, or, all sorts of different ways to kind of stay physical. And I like to try to stay a little physical in the booth too, because it helps me embody the characters. Some of them sit different ways, or vocally. They just live in different places in the body. So, yeah, I need to use my body, even though this is a job where there's a lot of sitting. It's true.
Yeah, it's a lot. But we are grateful for you guys doing that. But yeah, speaking of these lovely accents that I completely botched on with the British one, do you have a favorite accent to perform?
Oh, favorite accent. Well, I do love sort of when I've got to do like Shane East, and I've got to do his voice. Shane's a particularly fun one. And but I love doing Russian. I don't know why. Maybe it's the
Yeah.
let's see. Yeah, it just any accent for me is fun to do, because I like doing kind of New York guys, New York gangster guys, tough guys. I love that. Yeah, I love doing British Isles. I love doing Eastern European.
Which is you find more challenging, or which is your hardest?
Australian is tough because for me it can morph a little bit into Cockney. I can sound a little bit like a chimney sweep. So that I have to really mark out my vowel changes. And some of the Scandinavian ones are tough. You don't hear them as often. So if I had to do like a Norwegian or a Swedish or a Danish accent, I'd really have to bone up on that. But I just had to do a German. I've just had to do Russian. I did the Italian. Let's see, what about French? French is a little hard. French is hard for me to not sound so like French can become Russian for me, or I can sound a little too cartoony. Like I have to avoid sounding a little like
Pepe Le
Pepe.
Pew?
Like it's terrible. It's terrible. The French people deserve better. So I'll go and I'll look at a movie that's got like a really sexy French actor, and I'll be like, talk like him. But I love Irish. Irish is great. Scottish. British Isles. There's a lot. There's a ton of accents in the British Isles. They really are variable. And then in terms of American, we got a lot of accents here. Something I cannot do to save my life is a Boston accent. I had to do a Boston accent a couple of times, and they wanted, so park your car in Harvard. Yeah, I can't do it. But New York City, certain Southern dialects, fairly. And then there's always like the Valley Girl. That's an accent too.
Yeah.
I like to tell people like, it may be like a fairly recent accent or dialect or whatever you want to call it, but it is an accent.
Yeah, that's true. But yeah, that Boston one is that Boston one is hard. I went
Ooh,
years ago
tough.
to Boston, and I tend to pick up the accent of wherever it is I'm at, whether I go visit family in Texas or if I'm in Connecticut, and at times I've been to New York. If I stay there for more than a day, I start having a little bit of that lil with it. So
Nice.
yeah, it
Yeah.
just pops in. So it's been like at least 20 years almost since I went to Boston, and I still can't say car. I always say car. I can't say car. I have to literally go car.
Oh my gosh,
Like,
that's so
and then I go to the
great.
car.
Go to the car.
Gonna go to the
Yeah, you got
car.
to watch something with Matt Damon, or
Yeah,
something.
yeah.
Something. It's
Just that for
lovely.
whatever reason, that one word.
The car.
The car.
Good
Yeah.
for you.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah. It's someone's like, oh, babe, stop. It's gonna come across as if you're making fun of people. I'm like, no, it's just so pretty.
Yeah, that's definitely a needle we have to thread carefully as
Yeah.
narrators because we don't want to offend anybody, but
Mm-hmm.
or be stereotypical or anything. But it's also a total flavor of characters.
Mm-hmm.
It can add so much. So, you know, we
Yeah.
try to sprinkle it judiciously.
Yeah. It's an interesting, fine line, like you were saying. And I know that lately there's been a lot of books that are having more of like Latin cultures involved, or
Mm-hmm.
someone that has a
Mm-hmm.
Latin character. And I've gotten the IMs and stuff saying, "Hey, do you have a narrator that has that knows how to do like a Spanish accent?" And I'm like, "You mean Spanish from Spain?" And they're like, "No, they're from Latin America." I'm like, "Okay, but where in Latin America? Or were they
That's
born
right.
here? How
Mm-hmm.
long have they been here?" And they're like, "Girl, what?" I'm like, "Listen."
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's no,
It's not a
there's no
generic
generic
Spanish.
accent. Yes.
Yeah.
Are they from the Dominican Republic? Are they
Like,
from Puerto Rico? Are they, where?
yes.
Let's get specific here.
Yeah,
Guatemala,
like,
Yeah.
yes, are they from Argentina? Are they from Chile? And then it's just one of those where the Cubans that they don't eat they eat the R's, the Puerto Ricans that don't know what an H sounds like. And I can say all this because again,
Yes.
coming from a Latin background, and my father was from Cuba, my mom was from Chile, and my grandmother was Argentinian. So I had all the different dialects and the different
Wow.
accents in the house. And then, of course, born and raised in Miami, I had all the other ones outside the house. So it's interesting nowadays when, someone comes in, or even when I'm listening to a book and they're like, yeah, they have a Spanish accent, and all of a sudden, default to Mexican,
Mm-hmm.
or
Sure.
I'm like, I am Latin and I kind of don't have an accent. It's slight. You kind of have to figure out where I'm from, but I
Mm-hmm.
still have that accent. So it's very fine line as far as not stereotyping, and it's difficult sometimes for some. But I'm glad
Yeah.
that you guys are more in the professional and do the homework and do all that fun stuff for
Oh
it.
yeah,
So
we want to honor the heritage. The writers choose to write these books in the way they do. They choose, and it's very personal. We've got to honor what their intentions are. And if they're writing about an extended Cuban or Afro-Cuban family,
mhm,
we've got to go, okay, well, who's from where, and who's is the grandmother going to have probably a stronger accent than the granddaughter, because the granddaughter, it's just
mhm.
you figure out within a family who's going to be who, and it's a great challenge. And it also, I mean, it's enriching to the audiobook, I think.
Mhm. No, for sure. So this is when we have accents because it's a contemporary romance and we know where these different, regions are at and stuff like that. And then we flip into something like, the Fake Captive series from Lily Archer. Obviously made up,
Sure.
made up world, where we have all different types of fays and, accents and stuff. And, that series you co-narrated with Shane. So,
Yes.
so this is how I found the series. So Shane and I have become friends, and a couple times I interviewed him before the whole friendship development last year for the series. And he brought up Lily Archer, and I'm like, and he's like, "Have you heard?" And I'm going, "No, I haven't heard." I felt bad that I had it because there's just so many books, not enough time. But and then almost fast forward a year, and he kind of mentioned it again because it was almost like the books were starting to almost be completely, totally an audiobook now. And he's like, "So did you get a chance?" I go, "No, I haven't." So I was basically told to listen to the series.
You were ordered. Let's face it.
Yeah.
You were ordered to
Yeah.
what? To
And I listened to him. So,
yeah. So it wasn't. It was an order that you were happy to comply with.
exactly. So I did. And oh my God, I was texting him like, this is so awesome. This is a great story. And you may not hit this often, but you were right. But I fell in love with your performance. You did
Thank
so
you
many
so
different
much.
characters, and they were complex and they were all over the place. Um,
Her writing is fantastic. Her characters are so fun,
mhm.
so fun. Um, she's Faye's Consort, which is, I don't know, is it the fourth in this series? Are we already on fourth in the series? Just came out with Jason Clarke, actually.
Yeah, because the original series has a total of, so for those that may not have read this, you need to. It's really good. So Fate Captives is basically almost like two separate stories that is built into 8 different parts. So you have the
Yes.
heroine and the hero of book 1 through 4, and the best friend of the hero is book 4 through 8, something like that.
Yes.
And
So Emma takes over, and you
mhm,
hear her story, which is so great because you fall in love with the secondary characters through the
mhm,
first series, and then the secondary characters get their own series, which is so amazing. So like the best friend or
mhm.
the lieutenant, they get their shining moment, which is so great.
Yeah, especially since they were part of that first couple of books, and you started seeing some of those sparks between the
Hmm.
best friend and the secondary characters, and you sometimes wonder if they're ever going to get their books. But with Lily, it's with the series, I was like, thank goodness I got all the books literally back to back, because she serialized the whole the both stories, so
Hmm.
it's always in the middle of a good part. And I'm talking about not just the steamy good part, but like the action, like, oh my God, where is this going to go? And it's
Yeah.
one of those moments where you're talking and doing all the different characters and poof, and we hope you've enjoyed this. I'm like, no.
I know. She's like the queen of the cliffhanger, and in a good way, not in like
Yeah.
a but in like a okay next time.
Yeah.
And actually, the latest one just came out.
Yes, I already bought it.
On, that was quick.
Look,
Yeah,
you and Jason, hello.
yeah. Jason.
Mm,
Just gosh, my
mm.
job is it's so difficult with
Yeah.
narrators like this.
I feel
Shame.
so bad for you. Hmm.
I know. I feel bad for me too. um, and
Ugh.
actually, Lily Archer's Omega Academy, which is another series that I do,
Mhm.
is I just finished recording the second book in the Omega Academy. So that is like, if you like Twilight, if you are interested in anyway, if you like Lily Archer's work and you want to go to a completely different place,
Mhm.
try the Omega Academy.
Yeah, it's in my library. Well, again, it's one of those things where, from a listener and a reader, so it's the same perspective. We get told about a book, kind of like,
Mhm.
via, firsthand that way, and it's, through the grapevine kind of thing. And we listen to each other as like, well, what is it about the story that you love so much? And, we start writing things down, and we're like, oh yeah, we're going to get it. And that kind of like happened with, Shane highly suggesting that I listen to.
And he does it so nicely.
He
It's
does,
but it's like there's a command in there. You just know
yeah.
there is. He's such a great voice.
He does, yeah, and he was one of those, like, I was even getting scolded because he's like, "You still haven't read it?"
Oh,
And I'm
oh,
like,
oh.
sorry." I'm like, "I'll fix it."
Shane, she's a busy lady, okay?
Mhm.
Just hold your horses. All right. Calm down.
No, he's
Calm
fine.
down. Yeah, but
Yeah,
doing the second part of the series is with
yeah.
Jason Clarke, who is also fantastic
Fantastic.
in a
Yeah.
completely different way. And then I get to work with Shane East, um, Jason Clarke, and Damon Lee, who I'd never worked with before, who I'm
Ooh.
really intrigued by, with the Omega Academy. So that's fantastic too. Have
Yeah.
such a great group there.
Yeah, it's one of those where you just start listening to the new narrators. Like, I've never, Damon Lee before, so I'll just listen to that, and then when I fall in love with them, I'm like, well, what else have you done? and that's kind of how it happened with
Right.
Lily Archer. And then I bring other people into the mix.
Yeah, and then people just sort of explode, and then
Mhm,
everyone wants more, which is so I love seeing that with authors. I love seeing them start to explode on the scene, and
mhm.
it's really exciting.
But even from a peer's perspective, so I have a friend. Her name is Susie Vanderham. Shout out, she's awesome. She's a huge diehard Shanice fan, and she's also a
Oh,
huge
that's
diehard
nice.
Mackenzie fan. She loves you. And so I was the one that told her about Lily Archer's series, and I'm like, oh my God, you're gonna love it. And she's like, oh, okay, I'll check. I'm like, no, listen, you have to. So long story, she loved it. And then she's in that last book where there's that traumatic moment, and she's like, I hate
Mhm.
you. And I'm
I
like, I'm like, you'll be fine. You'll be fine. So
No, we get a lot of that in romance. It's sort of
mhm.
like, "Oh, I love you. No, I hate you. No, I hate you. No, I love you. No, I love
Yeah.
you. Go away. Come back." I can't be trusted with myself.
Yeah.
Susie, I feel your pain. I hear it
Mhm.
every time I end a Lily Archer book. I'm like, "What? Need to finish this. We need to finish this."
Yeah. Well, that's why I was so happy that the pretty much it seemed like all the except for that last Faye book came out all at once almost. And so that
Mhm.
allowed it. And now I'm glad to hear that the Omega second book is already, at least from your end, done recording. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah,
And then
no.
I have I have the Exodus End world tour series which is for Olivia Cunning. That's with Teddy Hamilton and I think Joe Arden. That's been kind of going on a long time. Those
Mhm.
come out. Let's see. I did a T.L. Smith's book, Cavalier. I've done the Evangeline Anderson Kindred Tales for a while, which is
Mhm.
great because that's just like a gift that keeps on giving. Evangeline Anderson, paranormal romance classic, just so great. I just did a Jill Ramsauer book, which was a mafia romance. That was
Hmm.
new to me. I did a V. Keeland book, which I absolutely love with Sean Kristin called The Baller. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. Audible, can you please send me more V. Keelan books? Please, thanks. Okay, bye. Because she was absolutely fantastic. I'm just thinking about stuff that I've done recently that people might be interested in. I'm doing a new series of books by an author named Mink, which is very, very. I've never done a book that's by an author with one name, like a single name.
Hmm.
Called Mink, and I did a book called Beauty and the Boss with Jason Clark, and then I did another book called Hitman's Prey with Lance Greenfield. He's great.
Yeah.
So
He's awesome.
yeah, just coming, just so that's new to me.
Hmm.
What else? What else? What else? Kaylee Loring. Okay, Kaylee Loring. I cannot say enough good things about, especially for people who like Girl Next Door, not Girl Next Door, but like your neighbor who you think is annoying, and all of a sudden one day you're caught in a storm and you can't go out and you run into each other in the hallway and you see him in a completely new light and
Oh.
he infuriates you, but you're also incredibly attracted to him.
Because he's always cute. That's the thing.
And he's I know why I that's why we love these books. Kaylee Loring is so amazing. We just did this book called The Plus Ones. I did it with Teddy Hamilton. Um about like, who's always your plus one at your wedding or like
Mm.
we're friends, we're the plus one. It's so great. It's so great.
I love
I
Teddy.
love doing her books and I love Teddy too.
Yeah.
He's a great guy.
Mhm.
And then I mean, coming up, I have some Natasha Knight dark mafia romance for those of you who are interested in the darker side. And I have a book, some more books from Mink, some more Kindred Tales on their way, and some surprises. New Omega Academy will be coming out soon. I just finished corrections on that one, so we'll be getting that to the editor.
Awesome.
And then it's out of our hands. Then we're just
Yeah.
like, oh, fly, little audiobook, fly.
Yeah, but you just kind of shared all these different types of subgenres because romance is an umbrella term, and there's so many different the subgenres underneath it. Do you have a favorite to perform that's a subgenre?
Oh man, I love the meet cute, but I love these. I gotta say, I love these fae escape, sort of Outlander, Twilight. I love that too. I love the fantasy aspect. But I love that Kristen Ashley, the boy she can't forget from her past, and she's been away and she comes home and she's got a past with this guy and they can't resolve it. And I love those high conflict romances, but I also love the sweet ones where they just kind of fall into each other too. I mean, I don't know. I love that. I can't decide. You can't make me decide.
Okay, we'll make you choose. I will make you choose. Yeah, but it's one of those things where you get to perform all these different ones. That Kristen Ashley book that she was mentioning is called Creed, and it's from her Unfinished Hero series, which is very different because usually we get the guy next door, we get the fireman, these are not your typical hero guys.
No.
These are guys that are technically bad.
Yes.
They're the good guys within their world, but they're not the good guy. So
yeah.
it takes something. I'm like, oh, I didn't think I was gonna like this, but I fell in love with Knights, which is the first book, and then Creed, which is what you did for her for the second book, and that's where it's interesting because they have the past, and you're trying to figure out, how the past affected them as individuals and as a couple, and how are they going to make all this work, because it's high drama, high volume in the relationship aspect. But again, remember, they're not good guys, so there's also stuff going on world-wise. But you did a fantastic job on that one too. It was one of those
thank you so much.
Yeah, we listen to you guys, and then we end up following you as you progress in your careers, and we end up discovering new authors to us simply because you're narrating it. Because I trust how you do your performance, so I know that I'm going to get a good one if you're doing it. Because there's sometimes been times where I've picked up the book and I've tried reading it and that thing gets slammed across the wall because I can't. There's just something I can't get into it, so I will look up the audiobook to see if it's available in audio, and I'm like, oh yeah, Mackenzie, done.
Oh, I'm so glad to hear that. That really makes what I do, in this little small dark room, just so worthwhile. Because when I hear that, that you guys like it, it's so gratifying to me. So thank you so much. We're so, like, because of this situation and everything, we're so isolated, like even beyond isolated than the ways we already are. So it's so nice to just hear that come back to me when we put it out in the world. So thank you.
And you're on Twitter, and I think it was Susie also that shared that you haven't been on there lately for her to rave about you.
Oh gosh, I'm sorry. I will head back on. See, this is the problem when you're in the booth, narrating audiobooks.
Which is where we want you.
But my yes, I will be. I promise. For Susie, I will be a better Twitter tweeter, and my Twitter handle is XOXO Mackenzie C.
Yeah. I will be including all these links of all the books that we were talking about, so there's no need to go hunting for them. I'll be in the post for people to find.
So awesome.
Yeah. I try to make it as easy as possible.
I'm also on Facebook. Like, friend me on Facebook, Mackenzie Cartwright. You'll see there's a picture of me, like, behind a curtain looking all like, weirded out. Like, I tried to look like a romance novel, but I just kind of looked silly. But
no, it's okay. She looks hot as hell. You're going, damn.
You'll recognize it. I don't think there's too many other Mackenzie Cartwrights, but you'll see. Friend me on Facebook, please, and please be patient with me. But I will. I'll get to you and friend you back, and let me know, like, what kind of books you want to hear, and also tell your authors, because what I hear about a book when I'm being offered it. So I don't get to hear about books that are coming out and say, hey, you know what? I'd be really good for that. But it doesn't happen that way. So an author has to have heard about me and request me to narrate their book first. That's how it has to happen. Yeah. I can't pursue authors in the way that, like, you'd think we could.
No. But
No, because respect.
yes,
Because
yeah,
propriety, decency.
yeah, yeah.
But it's so helpful, I think, when authors are thinking about putting their books into audiobook when narrators are mentioned to them, because
Mhm.
often authors are so busy writing the book, they don't know who the narrators are. So,
Yeah. And also to
yeah.
listen to, for the fans that are, really into the audiobooks. I know that like Lauren Blakely sometimes reaches out to her listeners and says, "Hey, you know, who do you think is,
Yes. Who do
stuff
you
like
want to
that.
hear?
What do you want to
Sure,
hear?"
sure, sure,
Yeah.
sure.
We have that ability to connect with you guys now, which is so awesome. The authors kind of came first, and so we've always been like raving about whether it's a Teddy Hamilton or Jason Clark. We do a lot of things where as we're reading, we'll tweet something and we're like, "Oh my God, Mackenzie's totally rocking this book," and it's stuff like that. So definitely, if you guys, a great way to support the narrators, besides obviously buying the books, is to, just tell us people why you love them. I know that I pick up books from narrators that I've never heard of before because someone was raving about them on Twitter or on Instagram, and too. And also, of course, I will say that you guys being available to us listeners is also fantastic. I love that I can send you a text message, rather on Twitter, and just say, "Hey."
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Or if you want to, if you're like, what are you working on? As long as I
Mm-hmm.
have permission from the author, I will tell you and I will say, hey, get ready. This book's about to drop on,
Mm-hmm.
later in April or something, because we get excited about what we're doing too. And we want you to know about it. And yes, and I will, yes, I say it here and now. I will be a better on XOXO Mackenzie C on Twitter, and I will be better on Facebook. I
Yeah.
promise. Pinky
Yes.
swear.
Yes. Susie's gonna hold on to that.
Okay, Susie, I'm coming. I'm coming.
Yeah.
Friend me on Facebook.
Yeah. Oh, I love her. She actually started, I'm not sure if you heard of it, she started a group on Facebook all about Shane.
All
Um,
about Shane. Oh,
all about
how
Shane.
nice.
Yes, yes.
That's
Um,
great.
it's great because people get to, rave about the performance, and people find out about his upcoming releases. There's a bunch of authors now in the group too. So it's always fun to have you guys out in the world of social media to kind of be able to connect with you guys, and of course, fangirl over your awesomeness. Um,
Well, we're fangirling right back. Who would we be
mhm.
without listeners? Nowhere. We'd be talking to ourselves in an empty room, and you do not want to do that. Trust me, it's crazy. It's crazy.
It's nuts, yeah. Um,
Thank you so much for making this an industry that we can all enjoy.
mhm,
And that a lot of authors getting their great stuff out there, made into audiobooks.
mhm.
As long as I can talk, I will be narrating. So, that's a promise.
Oh, that's awesome. Um, when you're not working, and you were able to do stuff outside, what do you do for fun?
Oh, those days. I remember those
Remember?
days. Well, I used to love to travel. I love to travel and I love to cook the cuisine of wherever I am. Sometimes badly. You guys, I'm not that great at I'm not fantastic, I have to completely admit. But I try so hard. And when you live in New York City, um, there is takeout available, thank goodness, for pretty much
Mhm.
anything you want. So if I botch it too badly, there's a solution available.
Quick phone call away.
Fantastic. And oh gosh, I love me a good movie. I love to kick back and listen to audiobooks. I love to kick back and read. Um, and I love just long, long walks outside. I love getting lost in new neighborhoods that I've never been before. That's part of the travel thing. What I used to
Mhm.
do when I was alone, I would take a bus route in a foreign country, just someplace, and I would make myself find my way back to my hotel room.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
That was
and
adventurous.
it was. I was really all about having adventures, and now, I have adventures, but not quite as dangerous.
Uh-huh.
But I like to keep it. I like to keep it spontaneous. Let's put it
Mhm.
that way.
Yeah. Thank goodness for the map app on my phone. 'Cause anytime I
Right?
travel anywhere, especially when it's like a walking town, like Savannah, Georgia, that I went to
Mm.
recently. I'm like, where do you want to go? And I'm like, let's look it up and where can we go? And that's how we kind of explore the city.
There you
using
go.
the
And I
map app.
cannot wait until we're able to do that again.
Yes.
Like when you say Savannah, Georgia, I'm like, let's go. Let's hop a flight right now. Like
Yeah.
Can't do it yet, but will.
Oh, you will. Speaking of traveling and locations, have you gone to any book signings or book cons?
I haven't yet.
You wanna?
I have not, yes, I'm going to be moving, I think, into that phase. Yeah, and I'm very, very curious about them. And that's another thing on my list, to check. I know there's one in Las Vegas.
Yeah, it's the last one that they're doing this year. So if it continues, it would be the last one. I think it's called Lovin in Vegas.
Lovin in Vegas, yes.
Yeah.
I
And
have some friends who are narrators who've gone to that, and that sounds amazing. I freaking love Vegas. Yeah, that's awesome.
So we're getting close to the end of our chat here, and I'd like to do a game with my guests.
Okay.
So it's called Would You Rather?
Okay.
So I'll ask you a couple of questions, and I'll have you decide between one or two things. And if you're ready, we can get started.
Let's do it. I love games.
Perfect. All right. Would you rather always be 10 minutes late or always 20 minutes early?
Oh, you started with a big one. Oh, I'm going to have to say 10 minutes late.
Oh, I think you're the first one.
20 minutes early gives me way too much to think about what's about to go wrong with whatever it is for.
Oh.
And you know what? If you're 10 minutes late to a movie, you're only 10 minutes into the previews. I'm okay with, no, you're like into the ads. The previews haven't even started yet. So I think that's about the right time to come into a movie.
Okay. Well, now I know if I need to invite you anywhere, I'm going to add those 10 minutes to my scheduling.
No. Listen, honey, I'm on time. I'm on time. You gave me a would you rather. Yeah. I gotta use my imagination.
Oh, okay. Would you rather know the history of every object you touched or be able to talk to animals?
Oh, I want to talk to animals. I would love to be able to talk to my cat.
Mm-hmm.
Because my cat doesn't want to talk to me. Actually, sometimes I think she's talking to me, and I wish I could understand her. Definitely talking to animals.
Yeah. Would you rather be able to teleport anywhere or be able to read minds?
I'd like to be able to teleport. I love traveling and reading somebody's mind. Where's the fun in teasing out what they really think if you already know?
Mm-hmm. No, I agree on that one, especially for the traveling aspect.
Right? No more expensive flights. No more cramped. No more middle seats. Ugh.
Yeah. Having the desire to eat like a really good pizza from Connecticut, or New York and stuff, and just be like, that's it, I'm done. Go.
See, done.
Yeah, exactly.
Done.
Mm-hmm. Would you rather never have to clean a bathroom again or never do dishes?
Oh. Okay, I do not, the house that I live in, I do not have a dishwasher right now. And the dishes are really, I would actually almost rather clean the bathroom than have to do the dishes. Yeah, I've gotten a good system down, but the dishes, there's so many dishes.
Yeah, they can add up.
They do. They add up.
Yeah, I have a system where if I'm cooking and I have people over, whatever, I'm like, someone needs to do the sous chef and clean as you go.
Yeah, there you go.
I'm not
you
cooking.
Need a system.
Yeah.
You're right.
You want me to cook for you? I will cook for you, but I need someone to clean as they go, because otherwise those pots and pans are gonna like triple in less than a meal, and that's only the first course.
I have a way too of using every pot and pan I possess when I'm cooking. So yeah, it gets crazy.
Well, also sometimes it becomes a factor of they don't like it with this, so I had to make another batch for them for that, and then I have someone else. I tend to give people specifically what they like.
Oh, you're way too sweet. You are way too forgiving. Oh my gosh. Oh my goodness.
So yeah, that one does not have any meat. This one has no red sauce, and then there you go. Oh. And then the other pot has both.
Too kind. Too kind.
it's what I do. I try, you know. If it makes you happy, I'm all about those little things. You know, like, oh, she remembered, or oh, yay, you know, she took the time to do it a second pot. That's why I go. Someone needs to clean as I go, if I'm cooking. So
Yeah, it's a good system,
yeah,
definitely.
definitely. Would you rather burn all your books or buy a Kindle or an ebook reader? So basically, keep the, you know, yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah.
Here's the thing. I pose the question to you. I ask you, how can you read a book? How can you read a Kindle in the bath? I can't. My wrists it hurts too much. And I use an iPad for my narration. So
Hmm.
no way am I taking an iPad into the bath to read, which is one of my favorite places to read. I've got a house full of paperbacks stained with water stains on them. No, I definitely need my physical copies of books.
Yeah. I've gotten to a point where I can go into a bookstore and not purchase anything if I don't need to, unless it's one that I've already listened to or read and I love it. So I only buy the ones that I've really love. Like I'm trying to get all of the Faves series, I mean, in paperback, and I'm gonna see how she finishes packaging all of them when she's done with the spin-off.
I admire your self-control. Good for you. Good for you.
Well, I already have bookcases that are from floor to ceiling, and I'm running out of space. I'm like, what other room needs more of a library? You know? Or I just need to buy a bigger house. So, all right, ready for the last one?
Give it to me.
All right. Would you rather have a personal chef or a personal masseuse?
Oh, massage every time. Did you? Oh, jeez. No question. I would rather eat if I can have a talented massage therapist. Thank
Mm-hmm.
you. Um, that gets it every time because you're this little neck and shoulders.
Yeah.
After a long day in the booth, it just gets a little. Massage therapist. Although boy. Not having to dirty dishes and use every pot and pan I own every time I cook would be nice.
Mm-hmm.
But
Figuring out what you want to eat.
I'm gonna go with a massage therapist. That's what I'm gonna go with.
Yeah, I'm there with you. I can definitely just do cereal and milk if I had to do that and get a massage. I'm fine with that.
Yeah, wouldn't you know that like at 3:00 your doorbell's gonna ring? Ding dong. It's time for
Yeah.
your massage. Oh,
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 yep.
oh, just a minute. Oh, I was so not ready for you. No, I was.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. So I know you had mentioned already a few of the books that are coming out. But before we go, what are you working on next that you may not have shared yet?
Let's see. Well, The Circle, which is the next Omega Academy 2 by Lily Archer, just finished narrating that one. Just done. And I'm going to have a new Kaylee Loring. She's going to have a box set getting ready to come out. So I'm going to be doing a 4th book in a series for her. More books from Mink. Another book for the Kindred Tales by Evangeline Anderson, if you like old-fashioned paranormal romance. And I'm going to be doing a dark duet for Natasha Knight. One book is called Mine, and the other book is called His.
Mm,
So you guys might want to check that out.
perfect. Needs a duet.
It's a duet.
Nice. Do you have a preference when it comes down to the different types of narration?
Nah,
Kindle?
the
Yeah.
books, yeah, love it. Love it
Yeah.
all. Love it all. They all present their different challenges, and they're
Mhm.
all and sometimes I just want to tell the whole darn story myself, but sometimes it's really nice to be able to play off of really talented male actor.
Mhm. Perfect. Well, thank you, Mackenzie, for being my guest for this year's Audiobook Lovin Series.
Oh, it was so my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
And until next time, happy listening.
Thank you for joining us in the Audiobook Lovin Series, hosted by Viviana, Enchantress of Books. We hope you have enjoyed this episode, as well as the series. We've included audio samples of our guests' work within the post for you to check out. Please make sure to visit the main page, link within the post, to learn more about the series, the authors, and the narrators. Please consider leaving a review wherever you listen to the series if you enjoyed today's episode. Make sure to follow us on our social media platforms and subscribe to the Viviana Enchantress of Books newsletter. Until next time, happy listening. Audiobook Lovin hopes you've enjoyed this program.